In the UK, the government recognises age 68 as the age that it's reasonable to retire. That's the age you can draw the state pension from. But we want to know what age people really retire at, and we want to help you work out if you're on track to retire earlier than this and by how much.
Your private pensions will allow you to access them up to 10 years before the state pension age. But how many make it to retirement by even age 58? On this channel, we're about having the freedom to retire as soon as possible.
Early retirement doesn't have to mean sitting in front of a TV. It can be doing charity work, travelling the world, writing a book, or whatever floats your boat. In this video, we've gathered together statistics from the UK and around the world to show you what age people are really retiring at, and therefore what you might expect for yourself.
We'll also touch on how to move this date forwards. Let's check it out. Welcome to moneyinshackled.com, the investment and finance channel and website that sets you and your finances free.
That was Andy and I'm Ben, and if you like what we say, hit the like button and click subscribe.
If you still need to consolidate all your old workplace pensions into one place, we've arranged for you the first 6 months without management fees when you open a self-invested personal pension with Nutmeg through the link on moneyinshackled.com, linked in the description below. The same deal applies for their ISA accounts as well.
Retirement ages around the world. First off, let's look at how the UK compares to the rest of the world when it comes to real retirement age. Here's a chart showing the average age that citizens leave the workforce in various countries using data from the OECD. This is not the state retirement age. This is the real age that people decide to pack it in and put their feet up.
The UK is an average showing, hardly showering itself in early retirement glory. But a point in our favour is that at a real retirement age of 64, we're at least beating the official state pension age, which was 65 at the time this data was gathered in 2018.
Our neighbours in France are free from the age of 60, putting us to shame, while our friends in America feel the whip until age 67. If you're feeling bored at work, be grateful you don't live in Japan or South Korea. These guys are slogging away until age 70 and beyond. But this data shows a fixed point in time, as of a couple of years ago. What was the situation 10, 20 years ago and more? Is the UK getting better or worse?
Real retirement age, the UK. The Department for Work and Pensions released this info in 2019, showing that the age of leaving the workforce has gotten worse for men by 2.1 years over the past 2 decades, and worse for women by 3.5 years. This second chart shows that around 60% of over 50s were in the workforce 35 years ago. Now, 84% of the over 50s are having to work.
This is obviously a bad directional trend for younger generations looking forward to their own retirements. Will the average exit date continue to creep upwards? Here's the age of exit for men and women in more detail. Although the real retirement age has gotten much worse in the modern era, the period from the 50s to the 80s showed the opposite story.
This reminds us of the trend in the wealth gap, shown here for the US, but the same story applies to the UK. The same period from the 50s to the 80s showed the wealth of the bottom 90%, i.e. most people, increasing to a larger percent of the nation's total. Since the 80s, inequality has been on the rise, and the wealth gap versus the top 0.1% has been growing. The story of this graph is that inequality has been reversed before after a period of political shake-up and can happen again. We'd expect average people to be able to retire sooner if this happened.
Maybe people are waiting too long to retire. On the flip side of the coin, pension wealth has nearly doubled in real terms since 2008. But we know it is being accessed later. If people could retire sooner and with less money a decade ago, why not now?
We suspect that a big part of the reason why people work longer is a lack of financial education about investing, combined with a tough time to be a saver. There is no interest to be earned anymore on your savings. If you plan to retire before state pension age, you need a good private pension or you need decent savings to bridge the gap.
In the years before the 2008 crash, interest rates were high, and it was a simple thing for savers to retire and enjoy the high interest, or get generous annuities offering good income for life. Now, wealth languishes in 0.1% savings accounts, losing real value each year, making a mockery of their life savings. Today's would-be pensioners are fighting an uphill battle.
Retirement age by region. Where do you live? If we look at the UK on a regional basis, Scotland is the best place to live for early retirement, with 33% of Scots set to retire before age 65. Surprisingly, despite the highest incomes, London is the worst place to retire early, with only 21% of Londoners predicted to be able to quit before age 65.
Maybe if they're serious about retiring early, Cockneys may want to swap their jellied eels for haggis and neeps. When do people want to retire? A study by pensions advice specialist Portofina says that the nation's dream retirement age is 57. Presumably, these people aren't investors like the many subscribed to this channel, whose own target retirement dates could be a couple of decades before that.
But even age 57 is a lofty dream for most, because as we've seen, the real average retirement age is 64. And it gets worse. 21% of Brits have no pension at all. Even 17% of the over 55s have nothing in their pension pot, according to an Opinium survey of 2,000 working adults from June 2020.
Figures from the ONS show that just 7% of people expect to retire before age 60. Most will retire at or just before the state pension age out of necessity.
Ability to retire before the state pension. This graphic shows, with data for men only, which countries in Europe are able to retire before their state pension age, those in yellow, orange and red. Those in shades of blue, like the UK, are retiring after the state pension date. Women, not included in this graphic, actually help bring the totals down in the UK to just below the state pension age as they retire earlier.
The Italians retire over 4 years before their state pension kicks in, and pretty much all of Europe, bar a few pockets, comfortably retire before the state tells them they can. What we've shown so far in this video is you don't want to be an average UK worker.
Years to retirement by savings per month, SPM. What we really want to know was what age people are able to retire based on the amounts they save each month from their income. Try as we might, we couldn't find any studies that have looked into this area, even though it's got to be the one thing that everyone in the investing community really cares about.
What we've done instead is pull a chart together based on these assumptions. In theory, it shows how many years you need to be investing into the stock market on average before you can retire on a basic income. If you plan to retire before age 58, the age that our generation can draw on their private workplace pensions and SIPs from, you will need a big chunk of cash, or more likely, investment assets to live on.
Here's the chart, and it shows the estimated number of years to retirement based on the amount you are investing each month into the stock market, starting from scratch. We've assumed zero tax because there are many ways to minimise it, such as by using an ISA.
If you are investing £2,000 a month, it means you could retire 15 years from now. Investing more than this each month has less and less effect on your retirement age if you're aiming just for a 500 grand portfolio, as after a certain point the bulk of the work is being done by compounding returns, rather than new investments.
Investing £500 a month means you could retire about 33 years from now. The main thing to do if you want to retire young is to increase the amount you can invest each month as much as possible.
The chart shows that the variance in years is massive at the smaller end of the monthly savings scale. An extra £100 a month could shave a decade off your career.
Our assumptions use the 4% rule to provide an income in retirement from the ISA of £20,000 tax-free. We've shown in this video how the 4% safe withdrawal rate can be increased by trusting in the stock market, so maybe you could retire earlier than our cautious estimates.
People used to a £38,000 salary should be able to survive on a 20 grand after-tax income in retirement. If we follow the 70% rule, which says that people tend to need less money when they're retired than during their working years. This rule was meant for old age retirement, but it could apply here too, though in reality, you probably want to spend more on freedom activities if you're retiring young. But consider that you won't need to save for your retirement anymore once you've retired, and monthly savings would probably have been a big part of your budget if you're retiring early.
Retirement age and career choice. Finally, does your career affect the age you retire? Well, manual labourers tend to retire earlier than office staff, despite pay being typically lower. This is more to do with being forced to retire early for health and productivity reasons than because they have saved more. But maybe it shows that office staff could retire earlier than they do if their blue-collar friends and neighbours are able to and not be ruined by it.
Also, the pension age isn't the same for all jobs. The armed forces can draw a pension at age 60, police, firefighters and sports professionals from age 55. So, maybe if you want to ensure your work boots are hung up for good by your mid-50s and you're good at rescuing cats from trees, maybe it's time for a career change.
Don't be average. The take-home lesson from today's video is don't be average. Average people retire in their mid-60s, at or near the state pension age, and have little in the way of investments and private pension pots.
Make sure you subscribe to this channel for regular videos aimed at UK investing and financial freedom. And check out the articles and features on moneyunshackled.com, starting with this guide on matched betting for a way to increase your monthly income and savings rate by £500.
Question of the day: what do you think is a good retirement age, and what is your target? Join the conversation in the comments below. Thanks for watching. On this channel we talk a lot about personal finance, investing and all things money. If you want to see more great content, please click the subscribe button below.
This is moneyunshackled.com. See you next time.